Hey everyone, it's Peter from Daydream Nation, and welcome back to the show. I've got Bicyclelegs. How are you, mate?
Always a pleasure, Peter. Feeling good tonight, and I'm looking forward to this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about a band that doesn't, frankly, get discussed too much in Australia. It's an Australian band because they're probably not that well known, are they, this band?
No, they're a band that's not that well known in Australia, except for people of around about our age group, and they're certainly not known outside of Australia.
Yeah. Well, the band in question is the Radiators, and we are going to talk about their first two albums, Feel the Heat, which was their debut in 1980, and the follow up album, Up for Grabs, which came out, I think, in 81 or 82. And we're going to pick five songs each and have a bit of a deep dive, and we're going to describe it in a sense that makes it sort of compelling for people who have never seen or heard the Radiators to check it out, because it is definitely a band that is quite worthy. I guess talking about the Radiators, this band is associated with what you call pub rock. But in listening to a lot of the music and the sonics of these first two albums, Bicyclelegs, I sort of think that pub rock is maybe because they played in pubs, because
Hmm.
they're a lot more. The sound of this band is a lot more than four on the floor rock and roll pub rock, which you would associate with bands like the Angels, AC/DC, Australia Crawl, Rose Tattoo, etc. Would you think that's a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these guys, I love pub rock, don't get me wrong, but I think these guys get kind of put into that basket. And I think there's actually musically a lot more going on with this band. Um, as we go on, this will come clear with the songs that I've chosen in particular. But I think there's definitely a new wave vibe going on with this band, especially with the keyboards. Um, a lot of sort of herky jerky kind of things going on, that make me feel sort of late 70s, early 80s new wave. But mixed with that sort of hard rocking sort of thing that you would get in the pubs. So it's an interesting sort of blend, I think.
Absolutely. And I think they're a band of two different types of themes. Like if you see them live, they are a little bit different than on record. I think on record, they were definitely new wave, power pop, even post punk. There's a lot of spikiness.
Mm.
But if you saw them live, they were more traditional pub rock and fell into that sort of hard rocking Angels, Rose Tattoo, AC/DC. And a little bit of a disclaimer, I did see this band quite a lot. I've seen them at least six or seven times in the day in the 80s.
Mm.
All right, well, why don't we talk about the debut that came out in 1980, which is the Radiators Feel the Heat. Now, the first thing that jumps out when I heard this album, boy, the production is sparkly. It is a
Yeah.
very accomplished production of this album, and the songs are very accomplished, well arranged. And there are a couple of songs on this album, Bicyclelegs, that, quite frankly, well, folks of our age are part of pop culture in Australia. Would that be a fair
Oh,
statement?
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, this is a really well produced album. It's co-produced by the band with a guy called Charles Fisher. Charles Fisher would go on, believe this or not. I don't know if you know this, Peter, but he would go on to produce the first Savage Garden album.
Right.
So,
Okay.
you know, I mean, that gives you an idea of where he's, looking at sonically, because whether you like Savage Garden or not, those records sounded brilliant.
Absolutely. Agree.
And
Agree. Totally.
and 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 this record sounds really, really good too. It's got the hard edge to it, but it's also got it's not muddy, it's not bogged down by what a lot of those rock records were back in the sort of 70s and early 80s with that sort of muddy production. I'm thinking of First Midnight Oil album. I love the songs on that album, but the production's rubbish.
And a lot of those Mushroom label albums, which brilliant, I mean, beautiful songs, great arrangements, but always let down by production. And maybe that might be the economics, but whatever these guys did on this album, it sparkles and it just sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you were saying, there's a couple of songs, and I'm sure we're both going to be bringing them up, that are just absolute classics to this day, especially for sort of people in around our generation, sort of Gen Xers and that sort of thing. So,
Don't leave me in suspense. Let's get started. Let's
yeah.
wheel it out. Wheel out the first song.
Oh, well, it has to be the album opener, which is Summer Holiday. I
Same
mean,
here.
just absolutely classic song. This song has everything I love about the Radiators in one song. It's got great guitar riffs. It's got like really great analog synthesizers. It's got like herky jerky rhythms, snotty vocal delivery. Brian Nickel, the lead singer, he's got this real sneer to his singing, which I think just makes some of these songs really, really cool.
Do you think he
And
sounds a little English? To me, he's
yes,
and I don't think he's terribly out of the wheelhouse of an early Steve Kilbey. I'm not
mm,
sure if you agree, but he's got that English tonality about him, the way he
yeah,
sings.
yeah. There's a bit of Steve Kilbey in him, but sort of punkier and snottier, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
attitude.
Yeah, but and then in the last minute of this song, there's an organ solo that I know you're a huge Deep Purple fan,
It
and
goes all
I love them a
purple.
lot.
It goes
It
purple.
sounds like John Lord, doesn't it?
It does. And then there's this na 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 chorus. And to me, it kind of reminds me like they're going back to the easy beats.
Yeah.
The glory days of power pop. Um,
I didn't want to insult you by saying this, but I feel like the harmonies on this song and one or two of the others, almost a little Beach Boysy.
oh,
But
I'll forgive it.
but
No, that's cool. That's cool.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a brilliant album opener. This is not until the very end. There's like this off-key version of it, but this is not the Cliff Richard Summer Holiday.
No, no,
This is
not at all.
completely different. But at the end, they kind of do 10 seconds of Cliff Richard right at the end.
Yeah,
But no, it's a brilliant, brilliant album opener, and it really is if I was going to only pick one song to introduce people to the Radiators, it probably would be Summer Holiday.
I've got about three, but this would be one of the three. I implore my viewers, please look this up on YouTube. Just give it a go. And there are two more that I will implore you to look at, but this is definitely one of the top three songs by the Radiators. It's a classic. Brendan Callanan, most valuable player. His keyboard work is so
Yeah.
tasty and nifty. It really lifts the material.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I actually made a note of that in one of the other songs that we're going to be talking about. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, in this song, we talked about the John Lord organ solo at the end, but in the choruses, he plays this really almost proggy kind of synth bit,
Mm,
where he goes dee 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 dee.
yeah. Yeah.
It's just absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely. No, great. That's a cracker of a song. So I think it's power pop. If
Mm.
I had to put it into a category or a genre for the viewers, because you've got to describe it by genre to paint a mental picture, I'd say this is like power pop.
Yeah.
Would you agree, or you think it's
Yeah.
more new
Well,
wavy?
I think there's a bit of crossover between power pop and new wave anyway. So
Mm,
I think both terms. I think there are other songs I'm going to be talking about that are more new wavy than this is.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, definitely power pop and definitely a bit of new wave as well.
I say power pop away from hard rock because there's not a lot of distortion on the guitar. The guitar
Hmm.
chords are very clean, and it's got that sort of rhythmic feel of power pop. And let's face it, in 1980, power pop was the rage, wasn't it? Power
Yeah,
pop ruled the airwaves briefly
yeah.
with a lot of bands. So yeah, I'm not thinking this band wrote this song because they thought, oh, power pop was the thing, because I don't think they're that sort of band. I think they just write songs because it feels right. I don't think
Yeah.
they ever deliberately think, oh, we'll do a new wave or we'll do a hard rock. I think they're one of their bands. They just do it.
Mm.
I don't think they're, that's the feeling I have. All right, well, we both chose the same song, so I'll throw it to you again. Do you want to wheel out another song?
Okay, the second one I picked off this album is a bit more of a deep cut, and that is the song All of Your Love.
I chose that too.
Oh, there you go. I mean, it's up tempo, it's got relatable lyrics about sort of relationships and uncertainty in relationships and all that sort of thing. The bass on this song is absolutely killer. It's got this really wonderful bass riff that goes through the verses and that sort of thing, which I really, really love. I actually think this song has a bit of a late 70s XTC vibe to it. I'm thinking White Music and Go To, those particular albums. Um, you know, um, yeah. So it's definitely, that's where you're probably getting a bit of that post-punky thing going on. Because I think those first two XTC albums are very sort of post-punk. And I get that kind of feeling with this song. So that gives you another side of the band with with this particular song. So and again, it's one that, most Australians wouldn't know this one, much less, our viewers from overseas. But it's one that's definitely well worth checking out, I
Yeah,
think.
I agree. Jeff Nichols with his bass playing. He's still in the band with Brian, the lead singer. I think Brian Nichols, I like his vocal phrasing, and that gives it that sense of new wave and post-punk. He's got this really short burst phrasing and these really tasty, short, sharp guitar lines. It's hooky, it's infectious, it's got a great melody. 3 minutes of 16 seconds. Great track. All right, I'll throw it over to you. What's your next song?
I'll be very surprised if you haven't chose this one, Peter. It's probably the classic song on the album, and that's Coming Home.
I agree. I've chosen this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. I mean, it's an all-time Aussie pub rock classic. This one definitely does have a bit of a pub rock feel to it,
This
I
is
think.
pub rock. This is pub
Yeah.
rock. Yep.
And like, I had a mate when I was at high school who was in a covers band, and they did this song. And pretty much every covers band in the first half of the 80s in Australia had to do this song because the punters wanted to hear it, you know? So, the lyric is kind of about, it's a very rock and roll lyric. It's about coming home after being on the road for however long and coming back to your lady and that sort of thing. Um, you know, it absolutely, this song is one of my favorite Radiators songs. And again, along with Summer Holiday, it's one of those ones that you have to know with this band because it is one of their all-time classics.
Yeah, I think this is a song that the Angels would have loved to have done.
Mm.
It's almost in that wheelhouse, It's sort of Angels adjacent, if you like that sort of music. I love the start of the song where it's got that hard, jangly guitar sound. I think that the start of that song is iconic. And
Yes.
then that punky, snarly vocal delivery, it's perfect.
Yeah.
The arrangement, the songwriting, it's all perfect. And the band is just into the pocket. And this is another one where I think it pays homage to the Easy Beats.
Mm.
Where towards the end of the song it goes, I'm coming home, I'm coming home. I can imagine,
Mm.
you know, little Stevie singing that, with the Easy Beats. I see this as it was, done in 1980, but could easily slot into something that the Easy Beats were doing in 68 and 69. It's got an Easy Beats feel to it. Do you get that? The easy
Yeah. Oh,
beats.
yeah. Especially that bit that you're talking about in the song. Absolutely, it's got that kind of late 60s vibe to it. But also, how catchy is that chorus? I mean, seriously, don't worry, it's all right. I'll
Yeah.
be coming home to see you tonight.
Oh yeah.
It's just absolutely catchy. And everybody, you'd go to the pubs in the 80s or the clubs. For me, it was Sherwood Football Club that I'd sneak into to see my mate play with the Zeros. And, the whole crowd would be singing that chorus along with the band.
It's their am I ever going to see your face again? It's their
Yeah,
signature song. So
yeah,
folks, this is the second song. You must, after watching this show, you must check on YouTube. You will not be
yeah.
disappointed. It's an absolute cracker. And this album did quite well. It
Mm,
sold a lot of copies. The Radiators were kind of regarded as a regional band because they really were mostly popular in Sydney, New South Wales. They would do every single pub, club, fair, fete. They would play anywhere. They would go up and down Australia, but they were mostly popular in Sydney. And this album went platinum and sold a ton of copies, and I think it
mm.
went top 10 or whatever, but off the back of this song. And I think this song got them airplay on music shows and broke them out of being a regional band, but getting them airplay nationally. But unfortunately, for some reason, we'll talk about this a little bit more. The Radiators were very regarded as being a little bit of a regional band, and specifically
Mm.
Sydney. And that's a bit of
Yeah.
a head scratch. There you go, I wheeled it out. But it's a classic song. I just cannot emphasize enough that you need to
Yeah.
listen to this one. I'm throwing to you again. What's your next pick?
Okay. Let's see if we're 4 for 4 here. Has to be 17. I wish I was.
4 for 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a song about sort of, yearning for teenage fumbling in the backseat of the car sort of thing. It's funny. These guys would have been what, mid 20s maybe when they made this record.
Early 20s, early
Yeah,
maybe.
and
Yeah.
they're already sort of getting nostalgic for being 17.
Yeah,
I
they
don't know
are.
about you. I don't know about you, Peter, but at my age, I can't think of much worse than being 17 again. But um, it's not a particular age I would personally choose to go back to. But when you're in your early to mid 20s, you can understand wanting to go back to that, what probably seemed like a simpler time. This song's much more sort of a straight ahead rock song. It doesn't have any of the, herky jerkiness of, say, Summer Holiday. But then it adds these bits again of almost sort of proggy synthesizers. You're talking
Mm.
about Brendan Callanan being the MVP of this band, and he's showing it again on this song. So, and it's a longer song by their standards. It's about 5 minutes and change, whereas most of their songs are sort of around the 3 minute mark. So they get a little more extended in the instrumental bit. So it's good to see them there. Again, band that doesn't get respect as far as I'm concerned for their instrumental skills, you know? So yeah, no, it's another brilliant, brilliant song.
Yeah, I think it's got a bit of a sped up AC/DC feel about it. And then there's a little bit of Beatles where it goes round and round and round and round. But I think predominantly this, I describe this as boogie. It's a bit of a boogie
Mm,
stomp and quite a little bit of maturity in the sense of, being quite young and reflecting, I wish I was 17 again. So
mm,
we'll find a lot of this is a common theme in a lot of their lyrics, even going in for up for grabs, where they're getting a little bit more reflective and looking around and what's happening to them. So yeah, a bit of an interesting theme. But I wonder what the boys think about, us actually doing a. I looked up on YouTube. I don't think anybody has done a review on the Radiators. and they really deserve it. So I'd be interested to see. And, you know, not many interviews lately.
Yeah.
It's really important that we document, you know, bands like this, and so the music carries on, because I can't impress enough that this band were really quite big, especially on the live circuit. Just coverage, and I don't think you know, did they ever sort of, if I was going to interview them, I would want to know, were there any aspirations to break it big in America or break it big in the UK? I think they're one of their bands, they're like a Status Quo or whatnot, that they just never, they just sort of were comfortable and just sat within the pond.
Yeah.
Was there anything that
Well,
you've heard about whether they, you know?
well, no, but I don't think it helps the fact that their first three albums were on three different record labels.
No.
So that doesn't help if you're trying to make it outside your particular market, where you know you're basically with a new label every record. So that certainly wouldn't have helped.
They're huge draw card, and I've read stories like in a year they would have done like 300 gigs,
Mm,
you know, and sometimes three in one day. It was really a hard slog.
yeah.
Next song, the fifth
All
song.
right.
Let's see if we go
Last one
5 out
off
of
this
5.
album. Yeah, I'll be interested because I've gone with another sort of more deep cut here. And that is the song Nancy Can't Dance.
No, I didn't pick that.
Okay. I think every band like the Radiators in the late 70s or the early 80s had to have an anti-disco song. And this is very much that. In the chorus they sing, Nancy can't dance if the beat's not disco. And again, this is very much a new wavy song, although the riff in the verse, again, you talk about 60s, or I'm even talking 50s influence here. The riff in the verse sounds like the song Summertime Blues by Eddie Cochran. Um, so, but yeah, it's another very new wavy song. And there's like this pretend disco bit in the middle, which is a crack up. Where they get out the sort of the disco beat, and Brendan Callanan pulls out these very disco sounds on his synthesizer, and and there's another great organ solo from him on this song as well. So I like this one as again, a more of a deep cut, but I recommend this one because it shows their humor in their lyric as well, because they were a band that didn't mind taking the piss a little bit.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of cheek, and I can't impress enough the charisma of Brian Nichols. To me,
Hmm.
he's like a funnier version of Doc Neeson.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? He's very he's got a lot of charisma. He's got that X factor. Your eyes are drawn to him, but yeah, I think he's kind of a funny version of Doc. But look, they are a Trojan horse, because I think this band is quite capable of writing a good lyric and
Hmm.
going into darker material, but they just chose not to. I think as their career went on, they became more of a party band, because I think they sort of tailored their songs to what the audience wanted. In preparation for this show, I listened to a lot of their albums and their later albums, and the later albums are kind of meat and potatoes rock and roll
Hmm.
stuff that you would hear on the Alberts label, or Screaming Jets, that sort of thing, a little bit more metally. But these early albums, I tell you, and it's always the way with a lot of bands, they're just being experimental, just throwing it in the mix, and a lot of it really sticks and works.
Yeah, absolutely.
My last song I want to pick off this album is Hit and Run, a little bit of a
Hmm.
quieter moment. I like it. It's kind of simple, and I think I appreciate that it is a bit of a palate cleanser, and it is quieter, and I like the lyrics. It's about two lovers. One's in university, maybe studying medicine, maybe not. The other is a guitar player. And, you know, it's kind of there's a bit of a romance happening. But in the chorus, he always says, why do we fool ourselves? It's physical.
Mm.
So you think it's going to be a love song, but throws this little tarty line. That's just physical. And to me, it just sums up young love, teenage, you know, things are transient, and probably was summed up their lives at that particular point in time. So, yeah, this song has a bit of a assuredness about it, and I think it's a fine way to kind of wrap up the album, hit and run.
Yeah. No, good choice.
Okay, so we go to the next album, which is Up for Grabs. So this one, I could think conceptually, Bicyclelegs, there's a bit of a common theme lyrically across the board. There's a lot of songs about fame, observations of the road. They're a bit more worldly,
Yeah.
a little bit more, weary, I guess. And from a production point of view, I don't think it sparkles as much as the first album. You can tell it's a bit of a change, and I don't like to be ultra critical, but it's a little bit muddy. What do you think?
Mm. Yeah, I don't think it's nearly as good a production. The production is just credited to Leo Productions, whatever that is. But you know, it's not actually a person that's given the credit. The thing that I don't particularly like about the sound of this album is the drum sound on it. It's got that getting that 80s wallop that I don't think suits their music very well. I love it in a lot of other 80s music, don't get me wrong. Those huge, huge drums, you know, on those sort of ZTT albums and things like that, love it to bits. Don't think it suits a band like the Radiators very well, though. So that's
Yeah,
one little thing that I would put out there, but it's definitely not as good a production as Feel the Heat.
but this album's got merit, folks, and
Yeah.
we'll talk. We'll pick 5 songs each. So last time it was 4 out of 5. Let's see how we go out of 5 for this one. So,
I
what's your first song that you want to showcase?
yeah. Well, I think we'll have a bit of difference on this album because there really aren't any sort of out and out classics. Radiators classics. No,
Ooh,
no, no. I mean, as in, you know, as in regarded by the public. I'm not saying there aren't great songs on this album. I'm
no,
just saying that,
I still dispute that. There's one that I'll talk about shortly, but yeah, we'll see.
yeah. The first one I've gone for is something that I think definitely shows their growth as a band musically, and that's a song called Roomful of Diamonds.
I chose this too.
Yeah. You know, it's a you get a bit of a fake out at the very beginning because when you hear the organ, you think it's going to have this like reggae feel to it, but then it doesn't. You know, the beat is very straight ahead. It doesn't go into that sort of skank that you would get with a reggae song. But that the organ kind of throws me, you know, when I first hear it. As I said, musically, this is probably more mature than anything on the first album. But it's still, you know, with a really driving rhythm. It's not like it gets bogged down at all. Um, yeah. And this is the song where I made the comment in my notes that, you know, that Brendan Callanan, you know, makes the Radiators something special, makes them stand out. You know, and yeah, I think it's a really interesting song. It's, as I say, it's definitely them moving on a little bit musically from what they were doing on the first album.
I think it's one of their best songs ever, and Steve Kilbey actually rates this as an Australian psychedelic masterpiece. And that's high
Mm.
praise indeed from the old Mr. Kilby. I think I like the drive of this song. You've got Jeff Turner's bass line really driving it. The tasteful guitar lines of Fez, Parker, and the keyboard melody. I put the keyboards remind me of something that's kind of moody blues. I get this
Mm.
Knights and White Satin feel about it. I don't know. Yeah, and Nichols' delivery His vocal delivery is full of urgency and gives the whole song an epic feel. But the most valuable player is Brendan Callanan on keyboards. And he's got this keyboard line in the middle of the song. It sounds like a theremin. I don't think it is, but it sounds like it, and really kind of spooky and eerie. And I wrote down, if this was a hit, the band could have gone in a whole different direction. They could have gone down the road of like The Church. And, you know, their next album could have been like Starfish meets, you know, The Unguarded Moment. I don't know. But it wasn't meant to be. It only hit a number 100. I actually remember watching the episode of Countdown when this song premiered. And I liked it then, and I like it now, but it was very unlike the rest of the Radiators songs. So it's a bit of a black sheep in their catalogue, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. But it shows the depth of this band. You know, they're much more than just that pub rock band, you know, and I think that's what really attracts me to this song, is just showing that there are other facets to their music. So
reading the lyrics, there's a lot of gaps in the lyrics. I think this song is what you imagine it to be. I tried to read the lyrics and try to understand what it's saying. And I think a lot of psychedelic songs and lyrics, it's your interpretation, and you fill in the gaps with your imagination. And that's what I find with a lot of the lyric writing with this band. A lot of it's very upfront, and, you know, it doesn't take much to interpret, but this particular song, I think it's your own interpretation.
yeah, I was always intrigued with the lyric in this song. My girlfriend's in the other room with her boyfriend. And it's like, how does that work? But
My girlfriend's boyfriend isn't me. Maybe. I don't know. I love this song. I think it's really, really good. This is my third song, folks, that you must listen to. So there's 3 songs that I implore that you must listen to. And please put your comments on this show. We love reading your comments and telling us, because it really, we love it when we hook people onto new music, don't we, Bicyclelegs? And I think
absolutely,
this band needs to be listened to.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's why we do these shows, is to expose people to music that they may never have heard before. And I don't know about you, Peter, but I get a real thrill when I get a comment on one of my videos that says, "Oh, I'd never heard of this band before. I checked them out and I bought their album." It's like,
Exactly.
wow, that's what we do this for. It's just wonderful.
And the Radiators have just put out a greatest hits, which have been remastered. I bought it. It sounds beautiful. You can get it on mail order. Look it up. The Radiators greatest hits. That's what I would suggest as a good starting point, wouldn't it? Bicyclelegs, get their greatest hits.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, because it'll have a couple of, I think, really great songs of theirs that aren't on these first 2 albums as well.
Yeah.
So
there's a couple of songs I'll mention at the end of the show that maybe, you know, like honorable mentions that people should check out. What's your next song that you'd like to showcase?
okay, it is a song called "It Wasn't Me." Okay, you picked that one too, did you? Okay, this is interesting. I've got a little anecdote to tell about this one, because as I was telling you off camera, I did a show this morning with our good friend Tom Curlis from Curlis Mania, and I was talking about a particular song, and I was mentioning that it was probably my least favorite song on the album because it had the snare drum on every beat. And I often don't like that in a song, when the snare drum is on every beat. But then I was listening to this song again this afternoon, sort of, you know, just so it was fresh in my memory for this show, and the drums are on every beat on this song. But I still really, really like this song because it has that new wave herky jerkiness that, you know, kind of overcomes that snare on every beat thing, you know. And the synth on this song, you know, I think the keyboard player had bought himself a couple of more synths after they did Feel the Heat, and he's getting some different sounds because some of his synth sounds on this song wouldn't sound out of place on like an early Ultravox or Gary Newman album.
Maybe even
So
Kraftwerk.
yeah, so yeah, it's a really good song.
Yeah, it's bouncy. It's a bouncy melody,
Mm.
and it's playful because this is a playful band, and you really get the sense of Brian Nichols' personality because he's full of cheek. When you see him now, when you see the Radiators now, you see that experience of 40 years or so being a showman. Because even in between the songs, he's got great stage craft. He loves to work the audience, a lot of comic lines, and, larger than life personality. So this is a larger than life type of song. The lyrics are a little bit throwaway. It wasn't me,
Mm.
but it's got such a snotty vocal, bratty vocal. Yeah, you forgive it. So yeah, I love this song. It wasn't me. All right, that's 2 out of 2. Number 3.
Number three, I'm going over to side two of this record, and I am starting with the side two opener, Something Wrong. Uh, it's just a brilliant album, side opener. Um, I did say in my notes that this might be, of all the songs I've picked, the most new wavy of all the songs uh, that we've got up to this point. I may have to correct myself as we get into the last couple. It's short but sweet. It's only like 2.5 minutes long. Um, and this is just one of those songs that I could just imagine all the punters in the pub or the club or wherever they're playing just pogoing along to. So I really love it for that. It's just got so much energy and just that new wave vibe, and that's always going to sort of hit my pleasure buttons because new wave was the very first music I ever got into as a kid. So yeah, I love this song.
Well, the song I'm about to pick is probably hits your new wave vibe, and that's Automatic. And that's 2 minutes, 24 seconds mix of Kraftwerk with a sped up, amped up Angels riff. Callanan is having fun with the keys here, with the blips and beeps. And the song's a bit of an ode to technology because, in 1980, there were all these different songs about, robots and the computers taking over the world. And a lot of bands were grappling with that. And the thing I like about it is Brian Nichols is half narrating and taking on a robotic character in his voice. So it's something a little bit different. So Automatic, this is where they've really got their Kraftwerk mojo going, with a little bit of Angels as well.
Yeah. Well, that's funny you should mention that song because that's my number four choice. It is, this is, even more so than Something Wrong. This is the most new wavy song of all the ones we've chosen. Um, it reminds me, funnily enough, in the same year that this album came out, which was 1982, the first Men at Work album came out. And on that Men at Work album, there is a song that was not a single. It was not one of the well-known songs. It wasn't one that was played on the radio. And it's called Helpless Automaton. And it has a similar sort of a vibe to it, with that whole technology thing and that herky jerkiness. And it's the only song on that album that's sung by Greg Ham instead of Colin Hay. So that kind of, and he's got that kind of yelp in his vocal and that sort of thing. So, um, yeah, this has, it absolutely has that new wave thing going to it. Again, really short. It's only 2 minutes and 23 seconds. But it does, as you say, have that rock edge to it as well. So that makes it a point of difference from these other bands around that time that were doing these technology songs, as it were, is that it still has that sort of rock edge that the punters in the pubs would still be able to get into and that sort of thing. So again, that's that blending of the hard rock and the new wave and the power pop and all sort of mixed in together. And it just makes it a really, really interesting song, even though it's not there for very long.
Do you think this band should have broken it overseas?
As I say, I don't know that they ever had an opportunity to.
No,
So
but do you think if they had the opportunity, they would have broken overseas with these songs? Because these songs are strong.
yeah, absolutely they are. Um, I don't know. I feel like maybe they have all the ingredients except maybe the polish, that some of those really big hit new wave bands had. And and I like that about the Radiators that they had those rough edges. But I think maybe that was maybe have held them back. But I don't know.
Are they too diverse? Because, as I said,
Mm.
viewers listening to this are thinking, okay, there's pub rock, there's hard rock, there's punk, post punk, new wave. Were they too diverse for radio? I mean, everything was ruled by radio, especially in America. What
Yeah,
genre does this fit into? And
yeah,
is it a
exactly.
little bit confusing?
I think maybe you're hitting on a important point there that they weren't a particularly homogenous band, and so that would have made them harder to sell for a record label, to radio and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Look, summer holiday, and coming home, you know, that should have broken them at least in the hard rock stakes. I don't know,
Mm.
in America maybe. I'm not
I
sure.
actually think they might have had a better chance of breaking it in the UK than America because I think the UK were more into that slightly, oddball sound that I think the Radiators sometimes had.
Do you think that if they were on a label like Stiff Records, some of the material that some of the songs on these two albums wouldn't be remiss on a typical Stiff label album, like
Yeah,
the of the late '70s, early '80s?
yeah, absolutely. I think they would have fit quite well with the Stiff catalog.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going back a little bit. So I'm going to put Up for Grabs is the song that I want to focus on. This is a snotty rock song. It's got a bit of snarly punk vocal. You've got Fess Parker's machine guitar chords counterpointing, the bass line of Jeff Turner, and Chris Tagg doing his Charlie Watts sitting behind the beat. Pub rock is probably where they live, but in the studio, I think they inhabit a different space. And this song is definitely an indication of them inhabiting a slightly different space. The lyrics are, I think, if this album had a slight concept about it, this album is about the demands of fame. So,
Mm.
and life on the road. And it's all summarized in this particular song. Did you choose this one?
I did not.
What do you think of this song?
So I do like it. I think it's a good album opener. It's certainly not a summer holiday good album opener, but it's still a good album opener. And I think it does introduce you to the fact that this is a different record from Feel the Heat. And I think, for better and for worse. Um, so yeah, it's a good album opener. The songs I picked, I just liked a little better. That's all. I still like Up for Grabs quite a bit.
Okay, what's your number five?
Okay, my number five is a song called I Go to Pieces. It's a mid-tempo, well, at least mid-tempo by Radiator standards, because if you guys go and listen to these songs, you'll find that their up-tempo songs are really up-tempo. They are, go and listen to Summer Holiday. That song is going at 100 miles a minute. It's really, really up-tempo. So, I Go to Pieces is a little slower. It's a lyric about sort of obsession with your romantic partner. And again, like Roomful of Diamonds, I find that this is a more mature song musically. You know, this is them going beyond what they'd done on that first record. Um, I love the bubbling synths in the instrumental middle section, and there's some great guitar riffing on this song too. So again, showing those, you know, things that we've sort of been pointing out again and again about the Radiators, but then taking it to a slightly different area and a slightly different level. And that's what I really, really like about the song I Go to Pieces.
Nice. No, I like that song. My last one is Bustin' Out. This has got a spiky new wave riff, ear candy. Brian's got very animated vocal delivery. You know, I'm busting out all over. And then halfway through the song, it goes for this Keith Richards type guitar. And it's kind of a Keith Richards Stonesy workout that's really tasty. So it's got a lot of game, this song. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So there you go. I think we've got to talk about the controversy and probably the part of the Radiators story that probably did put a bit of a halt on their career and why they haven't been the critics' darling, because a lot of folk are going, why haven't we heard about this band? You know, these two guys are talking about it. That sounds fantastic. I've given you 3 killer songs that you guys, right, viewers, you will look on YouTube and check out. But they put 2 songs out independently of this album, and it's really been a bit of a leg iron around their waist, so to speak. And even the band to this day, when they're interviewed, there is regret. It's been both a poison chalice, but at the same time, it's certainly it's given them some notoriety, which, you know, at least they got talked about, and nobody likes to be ignored. And the songs were called Fess's Song, and Gimme Head. Do you want to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think this is where we also need to talk about the concept, the Australian concept of being a bogan, which
Or
is,
Westie,
or Westie or
or
Bevan.
redneck
Yeah.
rock.
So, yeah, just the idea of these sort of, working class guys wearing their flannelette shirts and all this sort of thing. And I think that held them back, because they're a much more sophisticated band than that would give them credit for. But yeah, these 2 songs brought them notoriety, but also, yeah, they were a millstone around this band's neck. They actually came on this album here. I've got the original version of this album, and it came with a bonus 7-inch. So yeah, Fess's song has this chorus where he sings, "I take drugs, I like sex, I like looking at dirty pictures, I like lying in bed with Fess." So that gave it a lot of notoriety because in 1980 you weren't singing songs where you were you know saying out and out that you take drugs and look at pornography and things like that. So, and then I don't think we need to explain why the song Gimme Head was controversial. I
Yeah,
think everybody knows why just from the title. Having said that, I happen to really like that song musically because I think it's got this real, again, almost post-punky thing. It's got this thing that I like in a lot of songs where the chords move by just a semitone. Like it goes dun, 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 dun. And I really like that about it. But the lyric is, it's cheesy. It's purely for shock value, and
yeah.
compared with all the stuff that we've been talking about, it does this band no favors at all.
Well, I think they were just poking the bear because Australia was quite conservative in 1980, and you had a lot of religious forces, and moral crusaders, and I think they were just being, just poking the bear.
Yeah,
But to me, it doesn't. Yeah, it's kind of tainted the band.
yeah,
Because these first 2 albums are great, especially the first album. I think it's pretty well probably one of the great Australian debut albums, bar
yeah,
none. I don't know what your opinion is, Bicyclelegs, but
yeah.
it
I
sounds
no,
like
no,
you're
no. I
very,
mean,
very positive, and yeah, you've got this side to the band, and they put out this single, and it's just sort of tarnished the band forever. It's just sort of banished, but the punters love it.
Mm.
They play that song, those two songs live. It's a crowd pleaser. They cheer it up, and if they didn't play it, there'd be a riot. So
Yeah,
they've now
absolutely.
sort of boxed themselves in a corner, so to speak. They've got to play this song, which I don't know that they really truly like,
Mm.
and it lives with them forever. So
Yeah,
it's a little bit
absolutely.
of a catch-22 situation, but we
But
have to talk about it. And I think this band's
mm,
reputation can be pinned down to that single.
yeah, absolutely. But I agree with you that this album is one of the all-time great Australian debut
It
albums.
is. It
And
is.
you know, as much as we've sort of picked 5 songs each off this album and agreed on 4 of them, I would actually um, encourage people to just go to their listening app of choice and listen to the whole damn album because it's really, really good.
Yeah, Up for Grabs is good, but not as good. And I think it's let down. There's a few filler songs, and the production is a bit muddy. There is a significant step down in production,
Yeah,
and it
absolutely.
feels like a bit of the second album syndrome. But boy, oh boy, there are some classic songs on that. Just to wrap up the show, if I wanted to talk about some other songs that are honourable mentions, and I'm just bringing
Hmm.
in subsequent albums, I like Life's a Gamble.
Yeah.
I've got a soft spot for that song. It's such a cheeky, um, it's very new wavy, very synth pop with a little bit of the rock and pop of Brian Nichols coming out. And I also love their very cheerful version of Revolution, the Beatles song. It's a decent cover. I don't mind that at
Mm.
all.
Yeah, I might have to agree to disagree with you on that one. But
Oh, you don't
I'm
like? No.
I'm super harsh on Beatles covers though, so um, that's something, you know, that's a me problem. I'm, you know, 90% of
It's
Beatles covers I instantly dislike. So the
Life's
other
a
song
Gamble.
I
Do you
would,
like Life's a
yeah,
Gamble?
great song. Great song. Absolutely great song. The other song I would personally like to mention, if this band had hit singles, there were probably 2 of them. One was Coming Home, which we've already talked about. The other was a song called No Tragedy.
Oh
And I
yes,
really,
yes,
really like that song a lot too. You know, it's
yeah.
a bit more it's starting to get into the meat and potatoes that you were talking about, but it still has enough of that Radiators character to it that I think it's still a really, really good song. And I used to love hearing it on the radio and all that sort of thing when it came out. I think it was 1983. So, yeah, no, great song.
There you go. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We at Rock Daydream Nation love putting focus on bands that are kind of forgotten. And this band is still doing the traps. They're still treating the boards and playing to, their fans, although not as, big in focus or high profile. But outside Australia, not really well known at all, and they
Hmm.
need to be because they've put out some absolute cracker of songs and albums, especially their first album. You can see Bicyclelegs on Bicyclelegs Does Music. I will put the link below. Plenty of content. Also, please tell us what you think of the Radiators, your favorite songs, your favorite concert moments. We love reading your comments. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. And me and Bicyclelegs will be doing a show very soon on something or other. Stay tuned. Please subscribe and you'll find out. All the best and cheers. See ya. Bye.
Bye.